next, we will be discussing financial empowerment for you and your family, presented by Operation Hope. Miss Noreen Wilson, the Director of Operations, will be here, and they are sponsored by Uber. Welcome up, Miss Noreen.
Excellent and great to see you. Let me just,
Queen, how are you?
I
Great.
am absolutely fantastic. How are you, Queen?
I'm really good. I'm really, really good. This day is it just keeps getting better and better and better. The wealth of information is just bubbling up and out of me. I'm excited. And with that being said, I'm gonna leave this stage to your beautiful face, and I can't wait to hear what you came to share with us today.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me. You can go ahead and cue the video should anyone have it. While we're waiting for the video to come up, awesome. Here we go. Feel free to start.
This vision of Operation Hope started in the midst of a tragedy, and I wanted to figure out how I could have a bigger impact. 4 million clients served, $3.5+ billion invested by Operation Hope and our partners in our neighborhoods, 160 offices and counting, moving credit scores up, approvability up, getting people into the system, making them homeowners, entrepreneurs, small business owners, dreamers.
I heard about Operation Hope from my best friend. So I went to go meet with Miss Latresa the next day. She talked to me about my relationship with money. Had to look at myself and ask why I spent the way that I did. And she also asked me, had I thought about buying a home? Absolutely not. About 2 hours later, I went back to my desk. I had an email from my property manager telling me that I had to buy my townhome or move. So I went back to her. I was in a panic because now I'm in a situation where I have to buy a home. So I was able to build my credit, and I closed on my dream home. And I want to thank Operation Hope and Miss Latresa for that, because if it wasn't for them, their knowledge, their guidance, I wouldn't be here today.
The Operation Hope experience for me was unlike any other program I've been a part of. Honestly, I found a lot of clarity. I came into this not fully knowing where my business was going to go or not having a full vision or plan for my business. And I came out on the other side of it with a easily 5-year game plan.
I'm really thankful for Operation Hope and Launch and Grow. I just learned so much. I made so many networks, and I mean, if it wasn't for Operation Hope, I wouldn't even have a business. I had a concept, but even my name of my business got named in these classes.
My credit was really bad after a divorce, and then I came to Operation Hope, just learned a lot about repairing credit. About 6 months out of the Operation Hope program, I spoke with my counselor. She just told me, actually, 2 days ago, that my credit has jumped up 50 points since the end of the program. So that about blew my mind. I was glad that the steps I've been taking are paying off.
Okay, now if that doesn't make you smile, I'm not sure what does. As we kind of go through on this particular day and celebrate the first federally sanctioned Juneteenth holiday, it just makes you smile. And when you're going through and you're looking at that Operation Hope video, just think of what that means for a client to say, I was prepared to buy my townhome. I did not have suitable credit, and now I do. Think about what that means. Someone once told me, you just walk differently when you know you're going to be approved. I just think that there's some validity to that. So I am Noreen Wilson. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm honored to be here supporting Uber, who was one of our strategic partners and partners within Operation Hope. I am the Director of Operations, Program Operations. So as you kind of go through, and I was asked to be and join and talk about Juneteenth, I was so excited. And you know, you kind of go through and it made me reflect a little bit and ask, when we look at Juneteenth and we understand its formation and the reason for the holiday, should we be celebrating, commemorating, or reflecting? And I guess I would say all the above. You know, my 10-year-old granddaughter asked me last night, what was Juneteenth and what is it? Now, as a family, I am from Louisiana. And so originally, when we moved to Colorado, there was a huge Juneteenth um, presence that was here. Tons of parades and commemorations and wares and things. And, we had to step back and think, well, what is Juneteenth? So, as my granddaughter asked me last night, I was able to share with her not only from the knowledge that is there from, everyone looking at the holiday, but our own experiences. And we know Juneteenth is short for June 19th. And that's the day when federal troops really came into Galveston, Texas, and said, wait a minute now, you all know that slavery ended 2.5 years ago. And we understand that you want to keep this boat rocking and rolling, but slavery has thus ended. And can you imagine probably the hesitancy and the jubilation all at one time that those that were enslaved felt to say we kind of heard rippling that this was happening and that we were free, but here it is 2.5 years later. So as we kind of go through now and we commemorate the end of slavery in the United States, we look at different names: Emancipation Day, Juneteenth, Independence Day. But realistically, when we're looking from a African American and a Black perspective, we celebrate and we do commemorate and we do reflect on this holiday because we also know what happened through slavery. And we know that, when it all comes down to it's dollars and cents, right? And we know that Juneteenth was the result of Texas slave owners wanting to hold onto their free labor force and not tell those that were enslaved that they had a right to a declared freedom. And when you look historically, that was 1865, but it's still true in 2022. We still have things that happen economically, and we have a financial bondage in some aspects through declared freedom. So we want to make sure that when you're going through today, you fully understand when you're looking at Uber's relationship with Operation Hope and our partnership, how we, in essence, can answer all of those different things. I tell people I'm a seminar junkie. I sit in seminars all day, and I always like to leave with something very actionable. And if there is anything actionable, I kind of make that happen for myself. But as I leave you today, I'm going to give you on this Friday, June 17th, as we celebrate our Juneteenth weekend, something very actionable to do in your own lives as we kind of go through. So, when we go through, I want you to really understand that Black Americans make up about 13% of the US population. In that scope of small businesses, and all of my families are entrepreneurs, it's only about 2% that have viable small businesses. And by contrast, when you're looking at white Americans, they make up about 60% of the population. But guess what? They have about 82% of a small business presence. So, one of the things that we're looking at from Operation Hope is filling that gap. And how do we do that? Okay, I'm glad you asked it again. We have what we call our 1 million Black Business Initiative. And what is that? That means in 5 years, we want to have viable Black businesses. And what's a viable Black business? I always say there's a difference between a business and a hustle. A hustle feeds you, a business may create generational wealth for your family. So we do that by actually having business classes. And we teach you all the different things you need to know: how to market your business, how to do a SWOT analysis, how to identify the gaps in your businesses. We have that through Operation Hope. And that's something that everyone can take advantage of. And if we're looking to cure that 2% gap, this is a way in which to do it. How do you reach us? Very simple. Go through Operation Hope's website. We have services that we offer through Shopify that will also help you build your viable business. And then we have a community volunteer hub that's on our website as well. Because realistically, when we look at the overall scope of things, and when we look at Juneteenth and pairing economic freedom, we've got to truly understand what that means. And we want to make sure that we eliminate some practices that might be prevalent in our particular community. Let's do some banking versus payday lenders. Let's do some savings in an actual bank versus keeping it home. Let's begin building generational wealth. You heard the young lady said, I never thought about owning a home. Let's start thinking about home ownership. Let's think about how we can move the trajectory forward in our own life. It's one thing to have a holiday that celebrates and commemorates the advancements of the enslaved people. It's another thing to start putting some actions to those words so that this holiday really makes sense to your family and it is a celebration. Now, when we're going through, we understand that economically, there's some people that are a little disadvantaged. I am one of those, and I'm a talker as we go along, as you can probably tell. And I ask people all the time, what's your credit score? And why do I ask that? Because it makes a difference, because I understand the difference between unlendable and lendable, approved and denied, and how you sit with your credit will give you that particular presence. So, what we do at Operation Hope, we have a number of platforms. We want to make sure that as you celebrate, we give you a reason to celebrate in your own lives. So we have a number of things that you can reach us on our website. One of them is if you're looking to build your credit score past 700, we got you. If you've not ever been able to save any money along the way and you want some help from a certified coach, we got you. If you really want to be on the path to home ownership and you're not sure where to start, guess what? We got you there as well. If you have youth that you're trying to go through and you want to let them learn those things that you didn't learn growing up, we have you of that as well. We have a very vibrant youth department. So, in our 30 years at Operation Hope, we do things and we do them well to be able to make sure that economically we do have an independence. And we're not celebrating things in name only, we're celebrating our own independence as well. So the best way to reach us, of course, is operationhope.org. Go to our landing page, go to our webpage. You'll be able to get with a direct coach who can help guide you. And here's something I know to be true. When you work with a coach from a financial perspective, then you are 56% more successful than when you try to do it on your own. And our services are at no cost. Uber pays for Operation Hope to be able to offer you all of these services at no cost. And the only thing you have to do is show up in your own life in order to do that. Because we also recognize that when you're going through, that there's something called redistributing of wealth. And what does that mean? That means if you set yourself and your family up successfully, then you can redistribute wealth to your children and your grandchildren and their grandchildren. And just tell me that would make you smile. Now, I always like to use my own kids as an example because they just make me proud. And my kids are financially literate from the time they were very little. They had to create a business, and that business could be a clothes folding issue because I never gave allowances to my children ever. So they would create, their own clothes folding, and I would pay them to fold clothes baskets. And they would say, I don't want to fold those clothes. And I would say, no problem, then you don't get paid. And that is how they start thinking from an entrepreneurship standpoint. Okay, well then I can create another business, the garage cleanup business, the kitchen sweeping floor business, the yard cutting business. Whatever it is, I wanted to get at them on the path of thinking like an entrepreneur, of going through and strategizing and what can I do next and how can I earn and how can I earn. And then those things have actually shown up in their lives because as they grew, they understood the concept of budget. They understood the concept of savings. More than that, they understood the concept of credit. So when you're going through and you wonder, gosh, what do I do? What do I do to start in my own life? It's focus on those three pillars: building your credit score past 700, saving money, and paying off some debt because who doesn't feel good paying off debt, right? So when you're going through, these are strategies that you can start to implement in your lives, in your own children's lives today. But we at Operation Hope, we're here to help you as well because we understand that the financial impact is to do nothing. And we understand to be stagnant and not to want to move forward or know how to move forward. We certainly understand the disadvantages of that. And when you're looking at it, you can say, Uber has also understood that we in some communities have what's called a transportation deficit. Uber stepped in and solved that by saying, guess what? You don't have to have a transportation deficit. We can give you a car, we can give you a ride, we can employ you as well. There's so many advantages that are offered, which is why as we extend our partnership with Uber, it just makes sense because we're on that same path of successful trajectory to go through in people's lives and help them to be able to listen and to learn and distribute wealth and to think just a little bit differently. Now, any of you that have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat as we go along, and I'll be able to answer them if time allows. So, what does it look like to meet with a coach? Is it daunting? Is it scary? No, it's not. I have coaches within Operation Hope myself. I have a shopping problem. And if anybody's ever heard of Home Goods, that's my spot. And so my coaches successfully make sure that I stay out of Home Goods. I don't have to know what new displays they have each week. I want to make sure I have a home for good, so I stay out of Home Goods. But our coaches will actually sit you down. If you have a 450 credit score, we're used to it. We see it all the time. You don't have any savings, you were used to it. But the one thing you cannot do is to do nothing. So when you think about Juneteenth and the celebration of the enslaved people and their freedom and their jubilation, the first thing I think of if I were back then is what do I do next? What do I do now? How do I go through? How do I maneuver? And so, at least from a 30-year history of Operation Hope, we have those tools for you here from 2022 as they wanted to have in 1865 of how to be able to move forward in your own lives. So I will ask if you contact one of our coaches, we'll be able to get you started. We'll help you read your credit report. We'll help you determine what's driving your own credit and what's making your overall financial impact so that you also can kind of go through and bring your own self to the table, to your family's table, help everybody understand what it looks like. And again, you're trying to launch a small business, let us help you the right way so that you're not sidetracked, so that you don't lose focus, so that you really have a sustainable business. I had a business coach tell me one time a business should be created to sell, which means if you have a business, you should be looking down the line. One of his clients invented something, a strip for well water, to be able to determine whether or not it was drinkable and made more than $30 million doing that. So if you have an idea, let's help you to be able to streamline that and put that into action. I'm going to stop here to see, are there any questions in the chat that I should recognize? Okay. If
No,
not,
sis.
I'm going to continue on. So, when you're going through and you're trying to understand all of these particular things and you're trying to understand credit, and if you grew up like I grew up, my mom would have all of these quotes: I have to rob Peter to pay Paul. And if I don't have it, they can't have it. I want you to do one thing today. And that one thing is to pay your bills on time. Yes, you've heard it. You've heard it, but Miss Noreen is telling you that it's something you should do. Pay your bills on time. I will tell you 65% of your credit score is derived from whether or not you pay your bills on time and how much credit debt you have. So, if you really want to start focusing on redistributing the wealth in your own family and breaking that gap of paycheck to paycheck, pay your bills on time. You will start to see a noticeable change in your own life. The other thing is, I always say to think long term. Do I really need that? And the answer you might say, and I might say a lot of times, is yes. But sometimes you really have to think, do I really need that now? And if the answer is no, I want you to think about it. And here's a few tips that I want to give you when you're looking from a financial standpoint. I want you to think of, it's not $5. Times that by the 12 months in a year, and that $5 is $60. So when you're thinking, you know what, I have this streaming service, it's only costing me $20 a month, it's not a big deal. I have five of them. That is not $20 a month, that's $120 per year. So when you're thinking, what can I do? Excuse me, $240 a year. When you're thinking, what can I do in my own life? Sometimes it's just simple changes. Sometimes it's drinking coffee at home. Sometimes it's walking instead of taking um, the bus. Sometimes it's just really looking at what it is that you're doing and maybe partnering with Uber and being a driver and getting what's called residual income in your own pockets. Sometimes it's just thinking differently or launching your own business. So when you're going through and you're looking at this celebration and you're reflecting on it and you're saying, what are some of the things that I can do to support? You want to be able to employ some of the things that probably were offered back in 1865, and it is, let's start thinking about building a business. Now, how can you support if you wonder, this is Juneteenth, I'm excited about the holiday, I need to know what to do. What do I do first? I will ask you to support Black businesses. There are Black businesses that are restaurants, that are a lot of entrepreneurs that are um, fabric owners, that are salon owners, that are a number, a variety of things. I was in Detroit recently, and there was a phenomenal man that had an art store. Now, I'm traveling, and my suitcase was already 10 pounds overweight, so I couldn't really buy art, but I found something in his store to purchase just to make sure that I support Black businesses. The other aspect of what you can do is to turn good intentions into real change. If you're thinking, you know what, it would be good to donate to a local nonprofit, not that I'm giving a plug here, but certainly Operation Hope is one of those that you can look at. We are here to impact our community one person at a time. We're here to create generational wealth. So if you're trying to look at how to turn good intentions into real change, looking at going through and making sure you donate to your local nonprofits and community organizations. There are so many things that you can do that kind of commemorates this particular holiday, and it takes all of the queens and the kings that were enslaved for so many years, and it reflects upon the rich history that we have from all of them here in the US, that we know that when you go to DC, you'll see that buildings were built so that we had architectures and engineers, and we had so many very notable people. And if you want to take that historic history and move it forward, start doing some things in your own area that will reflect that. Start putting some generational financial knowledge and wealth and history into your own families, so that as my 10-year-old granddaughter asked me, what is Juneteenth? You can not only show her that, but you can emulate that. We are very much a proponent of, weekly we seek out brand new Black businesses to support. We've gone to ice cream shops, we've driven across town, we've had vendors on street corners, but it's something that my children can visualize because they see it themselves. So when you're kind of going through and wondering, all of this is great, but what can I do? These are some of the things you can do. And again, if you've ever thought about creating your own business, I will mention again that Operation Hope has an initiative for 1 million Black businesses. We can get you started right away with thinking about how to make your own business, whether it's a side hustle or whether you want it to be your full time occupation. We can think about going through it and helping you along your way. So, as I begin to close, I want you to be able to just really reflect upon all the love and respect in the world. And as I open and ask your question, do we celebrate? Do we commemorate? Do we reflect? What is it that we do? I want you to bring all of those to the table and reflect on the richness that the Black American has brought to the table and to this country. And as we go through, we understand that we have a huge cultural impact. And I would like you, person per person, family per family, young, old, in between, to really embrace that cultural impact and begin to move your own life forward from a financial standpoint. If your credit score is at 850, that's fine. Teach it to someone else. If someone's borrowing money from you, that's a perfect opportunity for you to send them to Operation Hope, and we're here to help them. As we go through, I wish you all a very happy Juneteenth and a happy celebration. And I am so very excited to be with you today on this day as we commemorate our first very federally recognized Juneteenth. But I will tell you, in my family, we've been doing this for years and years and years.
Shay, thank you, Miss Noreen. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for all of that information and being a part of our educational piece today. You know, finances is something that our community could not talk enough about ever. It hasn't been part of what was gifted to us, and being brought here, it's one of those things that was kind of, kept away from us in the systemic racism of America. So to see you here representing Operation Hope, someone that helps people build their finances, helps them attain home ownership, helps them, break habits and patterns that don't serve them. And to see you, a sister that looks like me, in charge, being the director, running things, I am honored. I'm proud to be in this space with you. Thank you for coming to us today. Thank you, Uber, for sponsoring Operation Hope and being an ally for the community. And we appreciate you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Should you need anything from me, please reach out directly. But as mentioned, you can contact me also through operationhope.org. Have a
Thank
fabulous day, my queen. I'm
you
honored to have been here.
and have an amazing time. And hopefully, you're coming out to join us on the weekend at one of our locations. Take care.
Take care. Goodbye.